Here is a sentence that sounds wrong but is completely true. Humans never invented fire. You cannot invent fire. Fire was here long before us, burning through forests every time lightning struck a dry tree. It did not need us at all. So the real question is not how we invented it, it is how we stopped running from it. Because every other animal on the planet does the sensible thing when it sees fire. It runs. We are the one species that walked toward it, picked it up, and carried it home. And that decision may be the single most important thing our ancestors ever did. It changed what we ate, how long our days were, where we could live, and possibly even the size of our brains. This is the story of how humans took the most dangerous thing in nature and made it a tool. So, how did humans invent fire?
To tell this properly, we have to split it into two completely different questions, because almost everybody mixes them up. Question 1, when did humans start using fire? Question 2, when did humans learn to make fire from nothing? Those are separated by an enormous gap, hundreds of thousands of years. For most of our history, our ancestors could not create a spark. If they wanted fire, they had to wait for nature to provide it, a lightning strike, a volcanic vent, a grass fire sweeping across a plain. Then they would run toward the edge of it, grab a burning branch, and carry that flame back. And here is the crucial part. Once you have that flame, you cannot let it go out. Because if it dies, you have no way to restart it. You have to wait, possibly for years, for the sky to hand you another one.
Think about what that means for daily life. Somebody in the group has to keep the fire alive, every hour, every night, through rain and wind, for years. That is not a chore. That is one of the most important jobs in the entire community. Feeding it, shielding it, moving it when the group moves. Some anthropologists have pointed out that this may be one of the earliest examples of a genuinely shared, continuous responsibility, a task that cannot be done alone and cannot ever stop. And there is something quietly profound about that. The fire in your camp might be, in a real sense, the same fire your grandparents carried, the same flame passed forward, never allowed to die. Fire was not just a tool, it was an inheritance.
And humanity clearly never forgot how enormous this was because we wrote it into our oldest stories. Cultures all over the world, with no contact with each other, tell tales about where fire came from. In Greek myth, Prometheus steals fire from the gods and hands it to humans, and is punished horrifically for it. In stories told across the Pacific Northwest of North America, an animal, often a raven or a coyote, steals fire and carries it to people. There are versions across Africa, across Australia, across Asia. And look at the pattern that keeps appearing. Fire is almost never presented as something humans simply figured out. It is described as something taken, something that belonged to the gods or the sky or another world and had to be stolen or given. Which is, in a strange way, exactly right. The first fire really did come from the sky, in a lightning bolt, and humans really did have to go and take it. Our myths remembered the emotional truth of the event long before archaeology could confirm the physical one.
So when does the evidence actually begin? One of the strongest early sites is Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa. Researchers found burned bone and burned plant material in the cave sediments, and the detail that makes it convincing is where they found it. The material came from roughly 30 meters inside the cave. That matters enormously because it rules out the obvious alternative explanation. A wildfire or a lightning strike does not burn things 30 meters deep inside a cave. Something carried fire in there deliberately, and the age of that layer is around 1 million years old. The species most likely responsible is Homo erectus, an ancestor of ours, with a brain considerably smaller than yours, no writing, no farming, and no cities. And they were already using fire inside a cave 1 million years ago. The other landmark site is in Israel, at a place called Gesher Benot Yaakov, dated to roughly 790,000 years ago. What makes this one special is not just that things were burned, but the pattern of how they were burned. Archaeologists recovered over 1,000 pieces of burnt flint, and crucially, those burnt pieces were not scattered randomly across the site. They clustered in specific spots, which is exactly what you would expect if people were building fires in the same chosen places, again and again. In other words, hearths. They also found charred seeds from oak, olive, and barberry, burnt wood, and the remains of fish. That is not one lucky accident with a lightning strike. That is a community that used fire repeatedly in fixed locations as part of ordinary life.
Before we get to making fire, look at what simply having it did. First, and most obviously, warmth. Fire let humans survive in colder places, which means it expanded where we could physically live. Second, protection. A fire at the mouth of a cave is a wall that most predators will not cross. Third, and this one is easy to overlook, light. Think about a world with no artificial light at all. When the sun sets, your day is over. You cannot work, you cannot travel safely, you cannot really do anything except sleep. Fire gave humans something completely new, extra hours. Hours that were not for hunting or gathering, because you cannot hunt in the dark. Hours where a group sits together in a circle, faces lit, with nothing urgent to do. Many researchers have argued that this evening firelight time became the space for talking, teaching, and storytelling.
Then there is cooking, and this is where the story gets genuinely interesting. Raw food is hard work. Your body burns a lot of energy breaking it down. Heat changes that. Cooking softens tough fibers, kills parasites, and makes food far easier to chew and digest, so you get more usable energy for less effort. The Harvard primatologist Richard Wrangham took that further. He argues cooking is one of the things that made us human, because energy saved on digestion could be spent on a bigger brain. And our bodies do look the part. Compared with other apes, we have small teeth, weak chewing muscles, and a small gut. But I want to be straight with you, because most videos skip this. It is a hypothesis, and it is disputed. Wrangham needs our ancestors cooking around 1.8 million years ago, and the firmest fire evidence we just looked at is around 1 million. That is a gap of hundreds of thousands of years, and critics are not convinced. Something clearly let our brains grow while our guts shrank. How much of the credit belongs to fire is still an open question.
Now the second question, the one that actually deserves the word invented, when did humans stop waiting for lightning and start making fire themselves? This is a far bigger leap than it sounds. To create fire from nothing, you need to understand, at least in practice, that friction makes heat, or that certain stones throw sparks. You need the right materials prepared in advance, dry tinder ready to catch, and enormous patience, because it fails again and again. Getting fire from a lightning strike takes courage. Making fire from scratch takes knowledge. There are two main families of technique. Friction, where you spin wood against wood until the hot dust you grind off forms a tiny ember, and percussion, where you strike flint against iron pyrite and catch a spark. Percussion has one huge advantage. You can carry the ingredients. A piece of flint and a lump of pyrite fit in a pouch. Fire stops being something you find and becomes something you own.
And there is a beautiful piece of detective work here. A recent study reported evidence of deliberate fire-making from around 400,000 years ago. The finds included scorched earth, flint hand axes cracked by heat, and 2 small fragments of iron pyrite. That last detail is the crucial one. Pyrite does not occur naturally at that site. It had to be brought there. Somebody picked it up somewhere else, decided it was worth keeping, and carried it with them. And you only carry a fire-starting stone if you understand what it does. That single act of deliberate transport is the archaeological fingerprint of intention. It is the difference between finding fire and knowing how to make it. This finding pushed the accepted date for fire-making back significantly, and it is worth saying plainly that dates like this can move again as new evidence turns up.
Once humans could make fire reliably, everything unlocked. Heat clay hot enough, and it becomes pottery, so you can store water and carry grain. Heat sand hot enough, and you get glass. Heat certain rocks hot enough, and metal runs out of them, which gives you copper, then bronze, then iron. Every one of those is fire applied with more and more precision. And here is the part I find genuinely startling. We never stopped. We just got better at hiding it. A steam engine is a controlled fire boiling water. A petrol engine is thousands of tiny explosions a minute, which is to say very fast fire in a metal box. A power station is an enormous fire boiling water to spin a turbine to make the electricity running the device you are watching this on. A rocket launch is fire pointed downward with tremendous discipline. We are not living after the age of fire. We are still living inside it.
So, honestly, humans did not invent fire. Fire was already here. What our ancestors did was stranger and braver than invention. They walked toward the thing every other animal runs from, learned to carry it, and kept it alive across generations. Then, hundreds of thousands of years later, they worked out how to summon it themselves out of wood and stone. Quick question before you go. Which do you think came first, humans using fire or humans making fire? And how big was the gap? Put your answer in the comments and I will pin the best one. And if there is another everyday thing you want the real origin story of, tell me down there. I read all of them. If you learned something today, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.